Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Masek talking about reciprocity.com, the sharing economy proofreading platform that I am trying to build. The E is spelled with a 3. And in this particular video, I really wanted to talk about mergers and acquisitions for your business development strategy. So this is all part of my small business and startup strategy Saturdays that I put out. I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship at a large state institution. So this is the kind of stuff that we study, and particularly with technology or innovative firms, mergers and acquisitions are an important process or important part of the growth of a firm. And so in this particular video, I'm going to define what exactly is a merger and acquisition, and then finally get into, or secondly, what I'm going to get into is thinking about it from the acquirer side, and then as well as the target side, and what it means for your business. And then finally, think about how you can actually improve the success of your mergers and acquisitions. And there's going to be a tip at the end, so you might want to follow all the way through. All right, so what is a merger and acquisition? A merger and acquisition, they're simply a combination of two or more firms. Typically, for the vast majority of the circumstances, it's always going to be just acquiring. It's going to be a combination of two firms. So this means thinking about all the different processes and how they have to be combined. It's not only just the sort of financial stakes that you have, the client, or the Rolodex that you have, right, that you're combining, but it's also the operations that you're combining. It is the employees that you're combining. It is all the little things, all your contracts and obligations that you're combining. There's a lot of different moving parts when you do a merger and acquisition in any particular business. So a couple of examples, you might think of a lawn mowing company. You're in the same neighborhood, or you're in adjoining neighborhoods. There's two firms, two different lawn mowing companies. This is you running one and you running another person running the other. You can combine those two different firms and create a larger company by combining those two different firms, right? And you might suggest that one has 51% stake in the ownership and the other one has 49%. And the reason why you do that is you have controlling ownership of the company. And sometimes there's all sorts of reasons why you might want to do that in order to grow your business, for example, in order to sort of exit your business or something along those lines, or to take a sort of less management role in the business. There's all sorts of different reasons. Another example you might think of is a veterinary clinic. For example, they want to expand, so they start acquiring other veterinary clinics within adjacent towns, and they start running a much larger business corporation rather than just single veterinary clinics along the way, right? So what I really wanted to talk about is, in this particular section, what I wanted to talk about is what is the difference between a merger and acquisition, because I'm combining those, right? And the reason why we often combine those is that there's very little difference between a merger and acquisition. It's often just framing and sort of the motives behind that. So a merger is where two companies might combine, and they suggest that it's sort of an equal combination of the two different firms, right? An acquisition, on the other hand, is where one firm takes over the other firm and acquires all of the sort of things that happen with the other firm. So the difference is just simply framing often. The reason why we want to do that, maybe it's you have a large enough company where you want to show that you're maybe egalitarian, right? So you want to do a merger. Maybe you want to acquire all of the controlling stake in another firm, so you just do a simple acquisition, or you might just call it an acquisition. Maybe you don't have enough financial resources to do a full acquisition, so you might think combining the two different firms, right? So you can't get the financial capital, so you a line of credit, for example, or you don't have enough sort of retained earnings available for you to actually get out there and combine those two different firms and be able to do that. So or to acquire the firm completely, so maybe you just do an acquisition, you control 51% of the other firm, they control 49%, right? So there's different things that you think about along the way on how to actually do this, and we often combine mergers and acquisition in the same sort of setup because the process and the sort of fundamentals behind it are very, very similar. They're essentially the same thing. The post-merger, what's called the post-merger integration process, is essentially the same thing throughout it. So you can think about, and you could use mergers and acquisitions from the acquirer side as a growth strategy. Growth, to grow the particular company, to grow the number of employees, to grow the revenue that you have. And the reason why you do that is that you can acquire the capabilities and resources that another firm has much more quickly than just sort of doing organic growth. And it's a decision that you do along the way as a manager to actually acquire other firms to grow your company. As long as you have enough capital to make that investment, you can actually do that acquisition. So what you want to do when you're doing this process is you want to think about, A, do you have the financial capital to be able to do this? B, do you have the right resources available to be able to do this? C, you should also think about, is this a really good deal? You want to get a if you're on the acquisition side and you're thinking about a target, you really want a great deal. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. You really, really want to only acquire firms that are a fantastic deal, that they're highly undervalued in the marketplace, or you think that they're highly undervalued in the marketplace. And then finally, you also want to look for firms that are that they match the capabilities, or they're able to complement your capabilities in some sort of way. You're making an acquisition of other firms because you realize that they're doing something that you can't possibly do, and you really want to acquire that capability, or that they're doing something so similar and they match so well that if you do an acquisition, that they're going to fit extremely well, and they're going to sort of integrate very, very quickly with your firm. And the reason why you want to do this is because the vast majority of mergers and acquisitions actually destroy value for firms, believe it or not. Yet they're a very, very common strategy, but it's been repeatedly shown, or it's kind of, now there's been enough research in this area that's been showing that a lot of mergers and acquisitions destroy value for the acquiring firm, for the acquirer, the firm that's actually getting out there and making the acquisition. And the reason, and I'll get into that in a minute, and stay tuned, I'll get into that little minute. I actually want to talk about, first of all, from the target side, and why you can actually use this as an exit strategy. It's often used as an exit strategy in technology, industries, biotech, for example, in the software industry. They often look for ways to be acquired. Firms often look for ways to be acquired, right? And this is great because what you can do is grow the firm organically to the point that you can actually be acquired by a larger firm that's interested in the technology that you have. And this is a common way, for firms to exit. It's a reason why that there's it's often a reason why there's a very large startup culture in different locations. They're trying to grow the firm fast enough and quick enough that they can be acquired from another firm, because they're growing this capability or these sort of knowledge-based assets that they can be acquired from another firm. So it's up to you as the target firm or the manager of the target firm for you to make sure that you are getting a good price for your assets, for your firm. So you have to really drive a good bargain, and often you have to pass over a bunch of deals along the way because they're going to undervalue your firm. And you have to realize that you are providing something that is unique and different, which makes it a little bit tricky, because sometimes if you're providing something that's unique and different, then you can charge a lot, or it's going to be undervalued, and it's going to be difficult for anybody to manage what you're doing, so they might offer you an extremely low deal if you're desperate to get out of that situation, right? If it's not working out for you and you're desperate to get out, then they can offer you a very low valuation and you're going to take it. So you have to be very, very careful about that and how you're growing the company if you're looking for an exit strategy through mergers and acquisition. So that's an important thing to think about. So coming back to this idea that most mergers and acquisitions fail, how can you actually ensure that your company is going to do well through a mergers and acquisition process? Right, so this is the critical part. It's not simply just getting acquired, or it's not simply just the merger and acquisition that's important, but it's the post-merger integration process after that process. So making sure that you have the appropriate resources to integrate the firms, you're spending time and effort to integrate the firms. You can't just combine people and suggest that everybody's going to work in harmony. There's going to be a lot of sort of justice things that you have to think about, making sure that everything is integrated and people are happy to be with each other, right? That's often the case, is that there's two different cultures that integrate together, and those two different cultures don't fit very well, and there's going to be tension, and the performance of the firm is going to fall. So you have to be very careful that the cultures are very well integrated, spending a lot of resources making them integrated, making sure that the information systems are integrated, making sure all the clients understand why you're doing this, and that you're spending a tremendous amount of time and effort to integrate those processes. In fact, the best firms that we know of that are doing this, they have dedicated departments, they have dedicated people that are making sure that the merger and acquisition is actually working and are functioning in the way that it's intended, right? So you might want to think, if you're a small business, if you're a startup, if you have a couple of people, you might want to devote, and you're thinking of doing this merger and acquisition strategy to grow your company, you might want to think about hiring a dedicated manager or hiring a dedicated person to ensure that that process is going to work along the way, that you're going to be able to better integrate and better combine the two different firms along the way. So that's really what the secret sauce is, making sure you're spending enough time and effort to integrate those processes and integrate the different firms to ensure that they are coupled together and they're working appropriately together, right? So that's really what I want to stress in this. It's all about the post-merger integration process to ensure the success of your firm going further if you're doing the merger and acquisition type of strategy to grow your firm. So if you like this video, make sure you do the old thumbs up. I appreciate it. You can also do the that's fine as well. Make sure that you, if you're interested in any of this kind of stuff, I'm not exactly an expert in mergers and acquisitions, but I'm an expert in the sort of, or I think of myself as a little bit more of an expert in sort of, how to manage firms in general, strategy of the firms, right? So if you're interested, you can leave some comments and stuff like that, and I can get back to you. The other thing you could do is subscribe, and for those of you who are already subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. You're so cool. Appreciate everything that you do. That's all I really wanted to say. If you're interested in reciprocity, what I'm trying to do, the E is spelled with a 3, trying to build a sharing economy proofreading platform where I am trying to grow this and try to create some sort of resource that's really cool for many people that are out there. Thank you so much. Take care, and I am really looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.